Working all day as an assistant in a 30-minute digital photograph print shop, his job was to resize images so that they would print at optimum quality. Software to do this job automatically was available, however accountants at the company's head office had calculated that his annual wage was marginally cheaper than the combined cost of the software and its maintenance. This task had succeeded in mentally anesthetizing him until one day, instead of going to the pub on the way home from work, he wandered into a bookshop of dubious but interesting content and stumbled upon a book of photographs which captivated him. Using only pots, columns, small statues and bodies, the photographer had created an entire world of infinite variation and utter clarity. When coming home after work, he began to photocopy the images and to cut out the various elements that constituted the photographer's world. Placing them together in endless arrangements and combinations, he became immersed in this fictive environment of objects to the point where it was more real to him, its characters more layered and interesting to him than those at work during the day. And that was when he realized that he was rediscovering something he had lost. When a child, he would spend hours in the bath surrounding himself with a world of toys. Each had a role, and together they provided him with a magical environment of objects in dialogue with each other and him. But the magical thing was that, like the photographs, the toys eventually took on a life of their own, became independent. The photographer was dead, but his world remained. In between resizing photographs, he started surfing eBay and collecting objects. Although this greatly irritated his ever-vigilant boss, it provided him with even greater satisfaction than the collages, as when the items arrived, he would arrange them together to create little three-dimensional environments, little worlds which corresponded to him as an adult, as much as the toys had corresponded to him as a child. These little worlds were the ideals of his imagination and subtleties of his personality made real. Whereas previously the thousands of photographs that passed under the clicks of his mouse were just an irrelevant blur, he now began to notice a pattern running through many of them. People seemed to instinctively capture the outstanding ingredients of the places they visited. Just as his toys had expressed his imagination, and his objects were externalizing his character, so these places communicated themselves, expressed the distilled essences of their characters through these outstanding objects, which were picked up on by the hungry-eyed tourists. This was all the furious wanderings of a mind with far too much pent-up energy. He had never left his city before, and emboldened by his newfound creativity, he decided to quit his job and, with the money he gathered from selling all of his accumulated objects, he would take a one-way trip somewhere. He had come across many images from this one island which looked just right for him to explore. It was obviously small and self-contained, but seemed for some reason outstandingly popular with travellers. Already in trouble with his boss for surfing the web during work, he simply went to lunch, leaving an Internet Explorer webpage open on an erotic website, and as he'd expected came back to find his things kindly pre-packed for him by his boss. Taking them in hand, he headed straight for the airport, and on landing in his first aeroplane, embarked into his first foreign country, where he boarded his first boat, taking him to a place he had only ever seen in other people's holiday photos. And just as those other people had been, so he was also seduced by the island. Its languid and reclining physique beckoned to him from the boat, and even though he was surrounded on the deck by other visitors, as he watched the island closing in around him, as its shapely contours raised the hair on the back of his neck, he felt as if he were again in front of one of those countless young nubile silhouetted shapes in the bars of his city, which he had always longed to hold. But where they had only taunted him from afar, here he was pulled welcomingly onto the alluring body. In a daze, in a drunken delirium, he wandered over the surface of the island, absorbing the heady and intoxicating mixture of lush vegetation and maddeningly blue sky. He had fallen for the place. And as his wanderings took him deeper into the island, as he searched to learn more about this beguiling place, he began stumbling upon fragments of its past. These broken and inconclusive material memories were to him like the innermost convictions in a person's heart. They were like a real, physical and tangible version of someone's most tender secrets, and being privy to them he felt special, as if somehow he understood the island, as if somehow there were a strong rapport between him and it.